Hello, it is Wednesday, so it is time for another episode of Weekend Reading. That is where I talk about what trades I read last week and which one was my favorite, what trades I'll be reading this coming weekend, and then I do a little discussion about something involving comic books, either a question or acknowledging an abandoned plot or whatever I think of at the time. So let's just jump right into it. What did we have last week? Well, we've kept the standard 2 for the past couple of weeks, and that didn't change last week. Last week we had Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Volume 5, The Clone Saga. It's a pretty good read. And we also had Monstrous, Volume 6, The Vow. This is also a pretty good read. But between the two, I have to pick a favorite, so I picked Monstrous. Monstrous is a really good series. It's probably one of the better comic book series going today, especially from Image. It's a really good, interesting, in-depth, and kind of complicated story. And the art is fantastic. It has a very anime-ish look to it. I haven't really talked about it before on here, I don't think. So, to kind of just jump into Volume 6, which is, we're in, which ends on issue 35, is kind of weird. But to just give you a little rundown, it's this world that's filled with humans, a group called Arcanics, and another group called Ancients. Humans are, of course, human beings, us. The Ancients are these groups of pretty much near immortal creatures that can wield magic and have the ability to. They also all look like anthropomorphized animals, and by that I mean they look like animal people. Like a wolf that looks like a person, or a bear that looks like a person, if that makes sense. Hence the term anthropomorphized. Look it up if you don't know what that means. Arcanics are sort of merging between the two. Once upon a time, the ancients started mating with humans and produced these sort of a lesser species that it became known as Arcanics. So they're basically part human, but they have ancient bloodline in them, so they look like neither. They look more human than ancient, but they don't look human either. They have animal qualities. They can have animal ears or look monstrous, and some of them even have mystical abilities. The story centers on one particular Arcanic, a woman named Micah Halfwolf. She is the descendant of an ancient who... The ancients have several factions in their society. They have a group called the Dawn Court, another called the Dusk Court, and another even called the Wave Court, which deals with oceanic Arcanics and ancients. There's even a new court called the Blood Court. And the humans have their own different factions. They have their major government is referred to as the Federation, but they also have a religious faction that basically runs everything for real called the Kumeya. And the Kumeya has a habit of they look for human beings with power, and they enhance that power by actually killing Arcanics and then grinding up their bones and using their bodies to make this stuff called Lilium, which they use to give themselves power. They also use it to power their weapons and everything like that. Where this story picks off... also to get more into Micah is possessed by some creature that is referred to sometimes as a demon or an old god. It's very fitting because it is a Cthulhu-esque looking creature named Zin, and he's attached to her body, and he has been since birth. And he sometimes he has to feed on people to gain power and stuff, and they've come to an understanding in this volume. Where this volume picks up is they're in the middle of basically a new war between the Arcanics and the humans breaking out, and there was a war before that was settled. There was a very unsteady peace between the two groups, but now war is starting again, and it's starting in the city of Ravina. Oh, there's also cats in this world. Cats are a thing, but they're not like normal cats. They have multiple tails, and they walk around like people, though they're still the general size of cats, so it's kind of weird / cute. But a war is breaking out in Ravina. But in this volume has the war is more of a background thing, and more is just the personal and very much family conflict surrounding around Micah, her ex, the woman she loves, who's secretly working for the Dust Court and is married to Micah's aunt, who's a major military figure in the Dawn Court, because the leader of the Dawn Court is Micah's grandmother, who's an ancient wolf, a wolf ancient. I'll put a picture up, you'll understand what I mean by that. And it's dealing with all the internal conflict of that. I'm explaining it terribly, but I assure you, this is an excellent comic book. It does not end well. This issue does not end well for Micah. That's all I can tell you. She gets betrayed. She's constantly getting betrayed. She only has a few people she can trust. She has this little fox girl called Kippa who, follows her everywhere and is dreadfully loyal to her. There's even this other warrior from the Dust Court called Corvus, whose job was to kill Micah, who has started to completely question his orders and is not interested in killing her anymore, seems very much to treat her as a friend. He also has his family issues that he's trying to deal with. And then there was like these two like one-shot comic books that were included in this that dealt with like the background stories of Micah when she was a kid, and Kippa, who's still a child but a bit before, and we get a background in her family issues, which were interesting because I wouldn't have realized her family was so fucked up, but it is. But yeah, it's a good read. Like I said, good read, good art. Monstrous is just a great story. I don't know when it's going to end. I don't know what end it's coming to, but they're building up towards something. I hope it actually meets expectations. But that was last week. What do we got this week, you might be asking? Well, here's a little thing. For this week, and I'm thinking next week, maybe a week or two after that, I don't know. But definitely for the next 2 weeks, we're going back to 3 volumes a weekend, because I have a lot of stuff I have. Somehow I ended up with just a lot of shit, and I got to read through it, and if I break it up this way, where I do the next 2 weeks with just 3 reads, I still have like 4 weeks worth of stuff just sitting on my table. So I should be good. I didn't want to run out of stuff, but I also don't want it to get piled up too much either. So what do we got this week, you might be asking? Well, we have Daredevil, Volume 6, Doing Time. Pardon me. A new Daredevil rises to protect Hell's Kitchen. Matt Murdock is in jail, but while he's serving his time in his masked guise, his home is left without a guardian devil. That is, until Elektra Nachios takes it upon herself to protect Murdock's neighborhood and his legacy. But the new Daredevil has her work cut out for her. Wilson Fisk remains seated as New York's mayor, with Typhoid Mary, the Owl, Hammerhead, and other lethal villains at his beck and call. And that's before Null, the terrifying King in Black, plunges the world into darkness. We're still in that shit. Elektra may be in over her head for the first time in her life, while Matt must find the strength to continue the fight as all hell breaks loose in prison. Collecting Daredevil 26 through 30 by Chip Zdarsky, Marco Cicchetto, Mike Hawthorne, Adriano Di Benedetto, and Marcio Menez, I don't know. But yeah, Daredevil's been good lately, so I look forward to this one. Starting a new series here, Firepower, Volume 1, Prelude. an all-new series created by Robert Kirkman and Chris Samney. Owen Johnson's journey to China to learn about his birth parents eventually leads him to a mysterious Shaolin temple. The students there study to rediscover the fire power, the lost art of throwing fireballs, a power they claim will be needed soon to save the world. Will Owen Johnson be the first person in 1,000 years to wield the fire power? Seems oddly reminiscent of Iron Fist, but you could say that is similar to a bunch of other stories too, so... I don't know, it's a simplistic idea, but just because it's a simplistic idea doesn't mean it's bad. Kirkman's stuff can range from good to bad. Not really hit or miss, but often hit and miss. But it looks interesting. It's different from anything else I've seen him do. And finally, the third one. Captain Marvel, also Volume 6. Strange Magic. Swipe right, Captain Marvel. Devastated by her breakup with Rhodey, Carol can't seem to get her groove back. Sure, monsters are still getting punched, but things are also getting missed. And boy oh boy is she grouchy. Before Carol can drive her friends fully insane, they stage an intervention that looks a heck of a lot like speed dating. With friends like these, who needs enemies? But forget romance, Captain Marvel is far more at home on the battlefield. She's a born soldier. Give her an enemy to fight and she's unstoppable. But her Achilles heel is about to snap. The mystic arts are Carol's one true weakness, and haunted by her failure to stop the villain Ove, she sets out on a mission to correct that weakness at any cost. Guest starring Doctor Strange, which makes sense. Collecting Captain Marvel 27 through 30, that is not a lot of issues, by Kelly Thompson, Jamie McKelvey, David Lopez, Jacopo Camigna, Triona Farrell, and Espen Grudengern. I don't know if I said that right. Grudengern? Whatever. We'll see. Captain Marvel has been... It's been okay. So that's what we're reading this weekend. Okay, so what are we talking about? Well, last week we did a question of the week, so this week we're doing an abandoned plot. So what is the abandoned plot about this week? You might be asking. Well, I've been doing a lot of Marvel lately, and so I'm going to continue with that. It won't be permanent. I do have things for DC, but there's been a lot of abandoned plots with Marvel stuff lately. Not lately, through time. Just most that I've recognized. This is one of the more egregious ones. And it's going to sound weird. But it's about Leonardo da Vinci. Yes, that Leonardo da Vinci. The so-called Renaissance man. The guy who is responsible for painting the Mona Lisa and the Vitruvian Man. I don't know if he did the Last Supper. I think he did. I can't remember. But that's not important. The famed artist and inventor, a really revolutionary figure in history that we're still talking about him to this day. What does he have to do with Marvel Comics, you might ask? Well, oddly enough, he was a Marvel Comics character. See, a couple years back, there was a series known as S.H.I.E.L.D. Now, S.H.I.E.L.D. might sound familiar to Marvel Comics because it's the premier spy agency in Marvel Comics. But this miniseries, S.H.I.E.L.D., actually explored that S.H.I.E.L.D. had a way deeper origins, that its true origins lie back way, way far back in ancient history, all the way back to ancient Egypt, where an alien invasion led to the formation of a group, or an attempted alien invasion led to the formation of a group called the Brotherhood of the Shield. This Brotherhood was a collection of remarkable figures, geniuses, and all sorts of people of great intelligence and skill that were collected to become part of an organization whose sole purpose was protecting the Earth. They operated in secret mostly. Now, this organization included many historical figures such as Leonardo da Vinci, as whom I mentioned, Sir Isaac Newton, Michelangelo, the famed sculptor, Nikola Tesla, and even well-known, just specifically Marvel characters like Howard Stark, who's the father of Tony Stark, and Nathaniel Richards, who's the father of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic. They were all part of this group. And there was, this miniseries dealt with like their internal conflicts and all sorts of shit like that, and revealed that Da Vinci had a time machine that allowed him to travel through time, and that he was once the leader of this group, and he had to deal with Isaac Newton, who was the leader of the group for a long time because he discovered magic and a way to make himself semi-immortal. It's an interesting series for sure. Kind of ended in an anticlimactic way, and then Da Vinci started showing up in other comic books. There was even a suggestion that he was connected to espionage figures in the Marvel universe and had a hand in the creation of the S.H.I.E.L.D. spy agency as well. But that's not where the abandoned plot comes in. Characters get abandoned and unused all the time. I've mentioned that before, actually. The abandoned plot comes from when a writer named Brian Michael Bendis, he was a big-time Marvel guy. He now currently works at DC. As he was leaving Marvel, he was still working on 2 books. His last 2 books he was working at Marvel were actually Miles Morales' Spider-Man, which is a character he created, and he was also writing Invincible Iron Man, where he created another new character named Riri Williams, who became known as Ironheart. She sort of became Iron Man. She took Iron Man's place for a little while and took on the name Ironheart. There was a time where Tony Stark was thought dead, and he was replaced by Riri, and oddly enough, Victor Von Doom, who was trying to become Iron Man for a while too. It's complicated. But at the end of this series, and at the end of Miles Morales' series, or around the end, we saw these weird hints of these 2 were trying to be recruited for something. And at the end, we see Riri and another woman named Tony Ho, who is the daughter of the guy, I forget his name, who helped Tony Stark create his first suit of armor. She's creating suits of armor herself. They became folded into this group that involved Cable and Blade, oddly enough, and that was recruiting like young people with like young superheroic people with abilities and stuff like that. And Riri and Miles were a part of this group, and it seemed like it was something being organized by Leonardo da Vinci. He mentioned how S.H.I.E.L.D. was gone because at this time S.H.I.E.L.D. had fallen, and it looked like he was trying to create something new that involved these younger characters. But they never specifically said what it is. He just said that S.H.I.E.L.D. is gone, and so something new needs to happen. So it looked like they were going to create something new to replace S.H.I.E.L.D. And then Bendis left. That was Bendis' last issue. I don't know if he had intentions to do more and he had some sort of falling out with Marvel where he just abruptly left with a story to tell, or maybe he thought he could set up a story and leave it to the next writers to carry on after him, and they just decided, no, we're not going to. I don't know. But I felt like that was kind of a letdown because it felt like a big build-up, especially with having Leonardo da Vinci as a character in Marvel Comics. He's a genius with an ability to time travel who's done all sorts of crazy shit. It would be interesting to see more of his story, what stories you could tell with him. But I guess that's just not to be. So yeah, that's the abandoned plot. The abandoned plot of Leonardo da Vinci's new idea for an organization to replace S.H.I.E.L.D. that just sort of got abandoned. It just is disappointing. I would have been interesting to see what that would have gone. I like crazy stories like that. I would have liked to have seen what they could have done with it, but I guess it's not to be. So, oh well. That's that. Nothing really to talk about anymore. Other than I'm actually starting a new job next week, so I don't know. I'll try to fit these into my schedule, try to fit them into the weekend or whatever days I have off to make them. I don't know how that's going to work going forward because this new job, the days off might be a little all over the place. I don't know if it's going to be consistent. I hope it'll be, but you never know. Fucking jobs have always got to be a pain in the ass about that shit. But whatever. I'll figure it out as I go, as I always have, as I have been for the past couple of months. But yeah, that's it. So enjoy your weekend and enjoy your reading. Have a good one.